There's a lot of vulnerabilities in terms of being sexually abused or trafficked in Cambodia, especially for women and children. Definitely the poverty, there's a poverty factor in it. And if we're looking at the numbers, we're looking at about 30% of the population living below poverty line, meaning families living below $2 a day. So that's a major vulnerability factor for being sexually abused or trafficked. However, there's also an issue of the value system within the society.
I can't speak for other nations, but I can speak for Cambodia. That the children are born, especially girls, with a higher value, that you bring the family value if you're a girl. You're pretty much told that by 2 years old, they probably have your husband picked out because they want to set aside the finances for themselves. So they start to groom the child to think about their future, to take care of them. They're taught from a young age that they're to serve their parents and take care of them with money. So there's really a huge pressure on the girls to do that. They know that if they don't do that, the parents are going to be upset with them, and then they're not going to be loved, and who wants to not be loved? They think that they must do what their parents say. So I have to do what my parents say. Doesn't matter, just don't think about it. Just do it because I have to honor my parents. They see the honoring as giving them the finances, which is totally not honoring. It's really exploiting the girls.
As you know, many of the parents now, where the children during the Khmer Rouge era, they don't have role models of parents during that time. So it's very difficult for them to think, how could they become better parents if no one's teaching them or nobody has taught them during that time?
The cycle of generations. TV has told me that she knows of 4 or 5 generations of grandmothers telling the mothers that this is what their purpose is. Their purpose is to make money for the family. Don't think about the sex part, just do what you have to do. It's in their culture so deep that this is the mindset that has to change. The children are born to serve their parents. Instead of the parents taking care of the children take care of the parents.
Just my family still have the problem with finance. My father, he talked to me like, look at the Vietnamese family or another family, they live around my house. They sell the daughter like to the rich man for 2 weeks or months like that. They make 1,000 or over that like that. So that time my daddy talked to me again and again about it. Like, you see their daughter, they responsible, their parents love, they take care of the family. But for me, I not care about my family. It's like, I feel like I have a posting for my dad, like he care about the money more than my futures like that.
Through years of experience working in the trauma recovery project, I see the effect that the children in their time in the sex industry, they were both physically and emotionally abused and affected.
The other issue is the perversion that happens at a very young age. When children are born, mothers literally sexually abuse their sons and make the sons dependent on the women. The instantaneous arousal happens at a very young age. The fathers then take the child at a young age to brothel. This has to change in the family unit.
The children have faced with community, with discrimination. They value themselves and ashamed what was being done to them. And along with emotionally, spiritually, and physically abused.
Some of the women retired went back to their village, especially those who didn't know what they did in the city, and communities would still be able to accept them. But for some whose community knows what their trade is, they can't go back to their villages because there's stigma attached to it. So they have to find a place where they could just retire, perhaps do farming or do a small business of whatever is saved from 20 years of working as a sex worker. I still have to see a rags to riches story. I don't think there is.
So when I started to go deeper with Saksam, especially with TV and understanding the culture, going deeper into the culture and deeper, I started to really see the roots of really what is at it here. They're groomed to have 5 husbands. They're groomed to be Excellency's girlfriends. They're groomed to be, something that will make money for the family.
That's a major vulnerability factor for being sexually abused or trafficked. However, there's also an issue of the value system within the society, wherein one is that rape or sexual abuse is perceived as a crime against chastity rather than crime against person. And therefore, when they address the issue, they don't address the issue as a crime, but rather they address the issue as a virginity concern. So solutions sometimes would lead to marriage between the victim and the rapist. Because the rape incident brings shame to the family, and being no longer virgin reduces the value of a woman or a girl and reduces the chances for that girl to marry.
My family was very poor when I'm small. I leave homeland 2 years old. I come to Phnom Penh with my parents. My father, he sell like morning glory by the bicycle, and like 2 years later, my auntie helped him to find a job. My families have a difficult time because of my brother, he sick, and my mom, she makes just small money, and my dad's salary is small also. So when my brother is sick, my family very difficult. Have food to eat in the morning, in the evening no have, something like that. So, and for that time I got drugged from the Vietnamese lady. She drugged me, and the lady just come and touch my shoulder and asked me, "Can you come with me?" No, I go back to take care of my brother, and said, "Just a minute," and I feel like I don't want to go. But at that time, she just hold my hand and then go, and I feel like stuck. I don't know how to move out from her like that. So just follow her to the place they have the big ship go to Vietnam and Cambodia like that. That ship, on the top they put vegetable and the stuff for going back from Vietnam and Cambodia like that. And the bottom have many kids the same age of me that time, 5 years old, 6, 7 years old like that. All the kids there, they look crazy. They look up to the sky and walk around they don't know what to do. And that time I feel like I cannot speak, and I feel hard up here also. I don't know, but I just feel hungry, and I feel miss my mom, miss my brother like that. So I try to shake the boat on they have a small window, this kind of water, the window up here like that. So I just shake the window and then jump out and then try to run. But I don't know what their purpose, what they want to do for me. Just think about my brother, so run away from that place. And I got in my mom's place. Have 2 guys follow me, but cannot catch me because when I cross the road, have the truck interrupt them and follow me, so they turn back. So my dad cannot find anything because when I leave, they leave also. Almost 3 years, I met one guy. He loved me, so I married him. Married and 9 years, and he come back. He told me, he said I met with one lady. She come from the USA. She's kind and she Christian, and I told her about what we did right now. And he said, and what do you think about it? She said she want to come to visit us. I not remember exactly how long. Mom said she's gonna go to visit, and then just not so long, and she come to visit. And Just that time, like I feel like so surprised. Like I met her just first day, but she do to me like very friendly, very close, like care, and she very nice, very gentle, sweet. I feel like surprised. I never have like that before.
For 4 years, I worked as an undercover investigator on behalf of 2 organisations, 2 human rights groups, posing as a customer, as a sex tourist, a pedophile, a John, going into the brothels and the go-go bars and the gentlemen's clubs in more than 12 countries around the world. And our goals were primarily twofold. Firstly, to get evidence, to document what was going on so that we could facilitate the rescue of the women and children being held in the sex industry. You know, I could have been in any brothel in any part of the world. Upon walking in, the signal was given, the girls lined up. They were from 5 or 6 different countries. And again, I had to make a very quick decision just based on their demeanour and their body language and how they looked. I chose a girl named Jenny, and we went into the bedroom after I'd paid the manager to have sex with her. But again, I'd recorded that covertly, gathered evidence. Once with Jenny, I just made up a ruse as to a cover story as to why we weren't going to have sex, and then just asked her, you know, how did you get here? And she said, well, you know, I came all the way from Korea and I was promised a legitimate job, but I've arrived here, they've taken my papers, my passport, I can't leave. And again, you know, this was a story I'd heard all around the world, repeated many times. I stopped at a gas station of all places when this guy approached me. He was a pimp, it transpired, and he offered me very young girls. So I said sure, I was interested. I told him where my hotel was. I drove back there, and true to his word, within an hour or 2 he arrived, and he did have a girl who was about 15 or 16, said her name was Emily. So, as was my practice, I paid to have sex with her. He disappeared. I recorded the transaction again, gathering evidence, and then I recorded her story. And she was vulnerable, and into that vulnerability stepped a pimp who, again, promised her dreams, promised her the world, seduced her, but ultimately very quickly began selling her. So I explained to Emily, you know, I said that I was eager to meet, to arrange future transactions for me and some friends. So she took me to this apartment complex where she and her pimp lived. Initially when I arrived, Steve was very aggressive, charged at me physically and tried to intimidate me and like, what are you doing here, and so on. He didn't like to be identified in connection with Emily, the products that he was selling. But when I said that money was involved and I was eager to pay for Emily and for other girls that he might have available, we quickly changed and we became best friends. And again, you know, the same old story, he would do whatever it took to make some profit. It's estimated that as many as 90% of the women that you see standing on the street corners or that are in the gentlemen's clubs and the brothels have some kind of pimp, some kind of person standing over them to whom the profits go. So sometimes they're more visible than others. You know, you can see them. You can see them in the shadows, keeping an eye on those women that they control. But sometimes they're more hidden. I guess the best way is actually to engage in conversation with the women and children themselves, and you'll quickly find out whether they are free to go with you, for example, or free to talk to you for any length of time without being bullied or instructed to do otherwise.
country is still young. I mean, Cambodia is still in its, well, it's been just 30 years since ground zero, day zero. And I think there's been a lot that has been happening in terms of rebuilding the society. And we would like to be part of that. And it's just so amazing how just 10 years ago, the conversations with the national government is very simplistic, but now they're more sophisticated. They can engage. I mean, they're hosting, they're chairing the ASEAN summit. So you can see those progress in governance, at least in the management of the state. So we're quite positive that things will improve.
Saksam's here to change people, change nations. And I'm here to change people, to help people change, to change their country, to change the issues that are here that need change. Sometimes I let TV translate it because Saksam is a Cambodian word and it means to restore, to bring value, like new, beauty. La'ojin, she'll say, that's really good. So it's about being beautiful. And I want to see that from the inside out. I don't want to do it with laws and rules and regulations and barbed wire and all those things that say captivity to them. I want them to understand freedom. And freedom is freedom to make a choice and make a mistake. And freedom to learn from the mistake and to grow from love. So when I started Saksam with TV, I didn't know how to sew. And TV had basic skills that she could sew. But I had to teach her to sew something that would be marketable within my sphere where I could help export for her. So I had this great idea. Oh, TV, let's do recycled fabric. And she turned to me and she said, I don't like it. It's dirty. And I heard her. And I said, if this is for her, then it's got to be something that she wants, not just what I want. But I knew that the product had to be exportable. It had to be something that the Western world would like. So I said, what do you want to work with? And she said, silk. So we went from recycled plastic to silk. And she did beautiful work with it. And it's a natural resource. And it's beautiful and valuable, which is what Saksam means. But I will say that it wasn't real saleable because most of my circles that we were selling to at that time, silk wasn't something that they really wanted. So we had to come up with something that was best of both worlds, really, and that's kind of made here, but for the Western eye more than the local eye. Saksam is sustainable. 100% of our finances is from our sales. But I don't want to focus on the bag, but the bag is a huge part of what we do. In the States, people need to understand who we are. They need to understand the trafficking issue. And how can they help? They can host a home party. Saksam will ship you a box. And you just have to tell our story. You have to just tell who we are, what we do. We send the CD. And that's how you can help. Americans are consumers. I mean, we really are. And I know that, and I understand that because I'm American. And what better way than I need a new bag? And tell our story, and you know that it benefits. 100% of that money is come back here. 100% of the money that Saksam makes sustains this ministry. We have 80 people in our circle that we touch. We have Community Center, we have Saksam Freedom Facility 1, Saksam Freedom Facility 2, heading into Saksam Freedom Facility 3. We're touching communities, we're changing this nation. The people in the facility learn about what Saksam means, but then they say, oh, but I need to teach my family. And they start to bring back into their own communities what they've learned in Saksam. Our 12 girls are the leaders of this. Amazing. Throwaway girls are leading successful places. It's amazing. But it's not possible unless we sell our bag, because that bag is what sustains this. So the sale is wonderful. Praying, of course. Saksam likes to say, buy, wear, tell.
In Cambodia, what we really need to look at is like in families who are in poverty situation, how do you help them deal with the stresses every day, and then how to become better parents, and how are they able to manage the stresses that they face every day. So there are conversations that needed to happen at the community level for people to fully understand why they view situations in the way they view it, and then become countercultural, if I may say, because that's really a key to making sure that we address this at the community level, because we don't want to always just address the issue of children who are already in crisis. I think what is very important for us is to make sure that we prevent children who are vulnerable, those who are at risk, from falling into the crisis situation, from becoming sexually abused and trafficked, from being in worse forms of child labor, from becoming street children.
I do a lesson with the girls that has to do with their identity and who they are personally, and understanding their beauty for themselves individually, rather than being competitive and looking at someone else's beauty. I want them to know who they are and what their beauty is. I have girls that maybe were on the opposite side of the beauty, didn't believe enough in themselves or believe that they were beautiful. They were told they were nothing and that they didn't have value. Instead of the opposite, where all the money made them valuable, ours were told that they weren't beautiful and that had to go make money because they weren't beautiful. So we're dealing with a different part of value here in Satsang. They know who they are now, and they know that they can't be bought or sold. They know that beauty is from within. They know that they're individually created with a purpose, and their beauty shows individually who they are.
My passion increased, especially when I became a father myself. And to see that the world that my son will grow up in will be better, and I'd like to contribute in that way.